Picture this. Some people get to punch you in the face, steal your wallet, and call it public policy. If you or I do the same thing, we go to jail. That's the emperor strutting around butt naked and everyone too scared to laugh. The non-aggression principle, the NAP, is the honest kid in the crowd who yells, "Dude, the emperor has no clothes." In plain English, don't hit people, don't take their stuff. Let's define the NAP clearly. Aggression means initiating force, fraud, or coercion against another person's body or legitimately acquired property. The NAP says laws should only prohibit aggression and allow defensive force in response. Everything else, voluntary agreements, contracts, charity, markets, should be free from force. The alternative? Yeah, but the government should be allowed to hit people and take their stuff for the children. That's not philosophy. That's theft with a hall pass and a pension. Taxes, theft with paperwork. Conscription, kidnapping with a draft card. Regulations that force people to do something, coercion with extra steps. The NAP doesn't give special immunity people in suits. And the NAP is not the entire law book, it is a constitution, so to speak. Congress can write thousands of rules on traffic, contracts, whatever, so long as they don't violate the Constitution. The NAP is the same. Practical questions like who will build the roads or who stops invaders or who helps starving kids are valid and worth answering. Private companies, insurance, mutual aid societies, and just general civilians have had a stronger track record of doing these things peacefully and often better than any force ever could. But even if someone could show challenges in practice, that still doesn't make it okay to hit people and take their stuff just because it would be more convenient or ostensibly good. Convenience and good outcomes don't disprove the philosophy or ethics behind anything, whether that's the NAP or any other legal system. The law must be a subset of ethics. If something is morally wrong, it cannot be made right just because it seems useful. Ethics sets the boundaries, practicality operates within them. And even if someone says we need pre-crime laws for safety, like gun laws to prevent mass shootings, that doesn't justify initiating force against a still peaceful person. By arguing this, you presuppose the presumption of innocence is void. The only laws worth defending are the ones that don't require you to pretend the emperor's wearing a three-piece suit when he's clearly rocking his birthday outfit. Don't hit people, don't take their stuff. The emperor has no clothes.
Okay. So with the non-aggression principle, um, how exactly do you enforce? How can you enforce it against possible bad actors?
That's a bit vague. Do you mean someone who's already aggressed upon you, or do you mean someone who might
Like,
aggress upon you?
what exactly do you like when we say non-aggression principle? Like, does it mean that no one is allowed to aggress against anyone? Right.
Right. A la the universality principle. If you can't, if a rule has to apply to everyone, or it implies a contradiction.
Mhm. Of course. So then, how would we enforce that without aggressing people who are bad actors who break that? Like,
Well, it's defensive force. If someone's breaking the NAP, it's well within the NAP's boundaries to use defensive force proportionally to defend yourself. Like
but
if someone's trying to kill you, you can obviously you can use defensive force. That doesn't break the
is
NAP.
there a is there a limit or a say not a limit? Is there like a more defined understanding of what aggression would look like with within this world of the non-aggression principle? Like,
Yeah, the it would mean initiating force, fraud, or coercion against another person.
so if I were to if I were to say be a monopolistic company who says I'm not letting you have this house unless you are a slave to me, that that's something that the NAP would say no.
Slavery is logically impossible. As in, it's
And
you cannot willingly sell yourself into slavery.
okay, so the non-aggression principle, while a noble idea, is something that in my view, is completely untenable. It's something that cannot be enforced. It's something that if you have a bad actor or a group of bad actors, like say a company with a CEO and his all of his friends, they could easily skirt around a lot of the non-aggression principle by saying, "I'm not technically aggressing. I'm letting people choose to work for me for pennies because they need the money." Now, obviously, there's the where he said that coercion is something that would be seen as an aggression, but that then we'd have a hard time figuring out what counted as coercion in this case. You'd have to go to courts for that, but what courts would there end up being? How would this non-aggression principle actually be enforced? The enforcement alone, the enforcement idea alone, um, seems to be something that breaks the non-aggression principle immediately, because in order to keep it up and keep people from screwing with everyone, you have to have some form of aggression to keep people in line, make sure that they don't aggress upon others, even if it's in a more of a preemptive way instead of a defensive way. It's like how we have multiple laws today, although many of them broken recently, that are supposed to be in place to make sure that companies can't just fucking take everything in the name. You can't just take everything. God, I want to say this word correctly. I don't know if I'd be able to talk any further without getting a nice back and forth. So I will cut my intro a little bit shorter. I need to be able to word this better.
All right, so just some quick yes or no questions. Are you
Mhm.
currently arguing your position right now using your own body and your own voice without me forcing you to shut up, or without forcing you to speak or shut up?
Can you re-ask
No,
that? Because I'm
yeah, sorry, I phrased that badly. Are you arguing your position right now using your own body and your own voice without me forcing you to speak or shut up? There's no
yeah.
trick in this question. So to make the case against the NAP, you must be in control of your own body and not have anyone initiate force against you to stop you from talking, right?
Yes.
So if we were next to each other, if I tried to punch you,
Mhm.
gag you, or drag you off where we were talking to silence your argument, would that be wrong?
It would, and we would need to have and there would be some force against you in reaction to what it is that she did.
So you're telling me that in order to argue against don't hit people and don't take their stuff, you have to assume that no one can hit you or take your stuff while you're doing that.
No, I would have to assume that there's a sovereign above all of us that makes sure that we all stay in line and don't hurt each other for our own selfish needs and wants.
So you have to assume that, or you can't. Why are you arguing? Why are we here together? We can't. You have to assume that no one can hit you or take your stuff because or stop you from arguing because then you can't argue.
Because I was raised in a situation where I was raised in a country that has laws that make it where if you do it, you will get in trouble and I will get paid because you decided to aggress against me.
Right. So we should be right. So if how do I phrase this? I'm having the same issue as you. I'm trying to
Yeah,
figure out
I
how to
get it.
phrase it.
I
Um, yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
No,
If you want to
believe
go
I
ahead and make your
understand that.
no, if you
So,
want to try to make your
yeah,
point.
no, um, the reason why I'm not for the non-aggression principle to be the basis for all of our laws is because there's so many loopholes to it. There's so many ways that people can which is why, we have lawyers with contract laws and everything who are able to um verbally dog walk ton of people. So if someone's educated enough in the laws, no matter what the basis of those laws are, they can skirt around well enough to basically aggress against whoever they want, but then the law will, the letter of the law will let them just get away with it because like, and I'm not, of course I'm not talking aggressing in the way of like I get to punch you in the face and then get away with it. No, it's more the coercion. It's more the coercion or or the theft of your stuff via legal means.
All right, so I would say the issue is that is yes, the are some lawyers are clever, um
Most are.
but yeah, well, yeah, lawyers, lawyers can be clever and whatnot, um, but the
Bunch
difference
of
is
like mystical fae.
but
Sorry.
here's the difference. In an app-based system, there is no coercive monopoly on law or law enforcement. A la the state does not have a monopoly on violence, meaning it does not decide solely. It's not the sole arbiter of whether or not aggression was justified. There are multiple different sites of. There are different can be multiple different private law courts. A la they have worked in admiralty and mercantilist systems in the past, and they have also worked in medieval Iceland.
So then
And if
the private court thing you're talking about there, that's
Mhm.
I think that's one of my biggest issues I would end up having with this NAP. It's that if someone is rich enough in, let's say, the Ancapistan type of thing, then I'm pretty sure
That
most
already
Liberians
happens.
are for in
It
favor of.
already
Like, it technically, yes, but we still have public judges who are just on the letter of the law and constitution right now. But if we're talking private judges, not private lawyers, private judges, then someone with enough money can just say, "Hey, we're gonna go to this judge because I pay them," kind of a thing, and then uh it ends up being kind of a constant loop, and then you just say, "No, I'm gonna go to my judge." It's like, "Oh, what money? You don't have the money for the judge. I've taken all the money because you liked my product so much that I now have all your money."
uh,
Like,
the the issue is that if you have it make having a monopoly on a coercive monopoly actually makes bribery easier. If you have a private law system,
Mhm.
it's actually much harder to bribe someone because you have, like I said earlier, multiple different competing law firms. You don't have or court systems. You will have, and it wouldn't necessarily or probably would never just be a single judge just presiding over a case. There would probably be professional jurors. There would be judge panels, somewhat similar to how the current SCOTUS works, although there would, like I said, also be professional jurors. And
Mhm.
the issue with, and go back to bribery, if Judge A is known to take bribes, clients would simply not use that judge or not use that private law court.
Yeah, and
Reputation.
another aspect with all these different possible judges and everything, you're saying like the NAP would be you're saying that the NAP would be the central thing that every single judge would have to follow if they were to be in the society, right?
Correct.
So then there would be
Like I said,
would there be an overarching law with it to understand like this is the reading you're supposed to have of what the NAP means, or is it each privatized judge has their
n-
own personal understanding of what the NAP actually means?
no. So it is a strict definition. Via I'm going to end up using some jargon here because I can't avoid it, but law very similar to Locke's natural law theory, which, like I said earlier, is basically
Wouldn't
don't
common
you
law theory be more understandable to where everyone is under the same common law, like ever like no there's no difference between whoever goes to who?
sorry, I don't quite understand that.
Like if I remember, if I'm screwing up the jargon, I apologize. But
Yeah,
I
no.
remember the common law. I remember that common law is the terminology that most people use whenever they want to talk about uh all the different judges
Well,
talking about things. It's where we get most of our
yes.
Supreme Court ruling type of stuff.
Yeah, so the NAP and the natural law would be at the top, and then common law would be below that. Like I said earlier, the NAP works like the U.S. Constitution. You can after the NAP you can build off of it, and you can have
So you're
individual.
saying so you're saying the NAP would be the foundation, and the common law would be how they're supposed to read it.
Yes, and there would be yes and no. The there would be individual covenant communities, so to speak, that where you can where there are additional rules where everyone agrees via signing an actual contract, not the social contract theory. And if you
Yeah.
violate them, you while you weren't aggressing upon someone, you haven't violated the NAP, you would still be punished via social ostracization. A
See,
lot, a lot like. Sorry, I just want to finish this point really quick. A
okay.
lot like how in academia, if you don't cite your sources, you weren't taken seriously and you were shunned. Is very much into that same aspect and regard.
So like with this so with again like a lot of this just wouldn't I don't feel like it would end up working because if we're talking if you said like it would be in different areas would have different understandings of certain laws, this would end up limiting way too many people in terms of like where they can and can't go. One of the biggest reasons why we have the US Constitution and the laws that we do have with the federal government being the overarching um I forget which amendment it is. I can't remember if it was like the 13th or
Describe it.
the
I
15th.
describe it. I
The
probably know.
one where the federal law can overwrite state laws if it
10th.
messes with
It's either ninth. It's
that
either
is the
ninth
10th.
or 10th. Yep, 10th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So with that amendment, we have it to where states can do what they feel is best for their thing, but if it goes against a federal law that could like if it goes against a federal law that covers
Then it
the
gets
majority of
overturned.
people, yeah, in order to make sure that we keep on a consistent basis to where I can be in California and go have my weed with the at the abortion clinic. But if I go to Texas, I get shot in the face if I'm brown. Sorry, that's me being stupid. Sorry, I had to make the joke
No,
once.
you're good. You're good. Yeah, so
But
no, so I understand. I understand the criticism, and the issue I would have is that are you trying to say that it wouldn't work because it's too decentralized? Oh, hi, Circa.
it's
Or
so decentralized. It's so decentralized that it would be very much a I live 500 person village, and they have one way of reading the nap, and then I would like go like 5 to 10 blocks over to the next 500 person village, uh, where they have a completely different understanding of what the hell that means. And I could get screwed over because like I had a ruling in one area that said that I can do X thing, but then if I go to this new town and say, "Hey, these people said I could do it this way," yeah, we do it different here. Like that's what ends up happening on a grand scale.
I would say that's actually a I'm gonna flip it on the head. I think that's actually the strength of I would say that's one of the strengths of a strict anti society. If you can have people who all peacefully coexist in a society, in the world, you have um uh, while the NAP is I'm gonna go ahead and try to restart that because that was bad phrasing. The NAP is a universal consistency. No one may initiate force against peaceful people. Um, but everything else, noise rules, build codes, etc. They can vary because it's built on top of voluntary agreements. I would say the state is the real source of any sort of inconsistency, because like you said earlier, federal laws and local laws contradict each other. The different states have vastly
Yeah, but that's
different gun
usually
laws.
that's usually in order to keep some consistency among people who are traveling state to state, because people don't want to just be stuck in one town or one city or one state their entire life. They want to be able to travel the world. They want to be able to travel their own damn country. So you need a overarching law that lets people travel wherever they wish without risk of their civil rights or their rights in general just being at the whim of whatever judge was having a cranky Tuesday and decided, "No, I don't want that. This is what Nat means now." Like, especially if they didn't get
Um,
paid well enough by their rich oligarchic overlords in Ancapistan. Sorry, that was
no,
a
no,
valid
no,
thing. I'm sorry.
no,
Sorry.
no. That's and he's basically saying that there wouldn't be consistency because uh, judges can either be bribed or have a bad day, basically.
It would be too easy. The bribes would be easier than it is with with even what we currently have with the federal government. Yes, currently right now, like federal judges are being bribed, and we
Yeah,
aren't prosecuting them like we should. But at least there's checks and balances with what we currently have to get them. We just have to have people who are willing to enact those checks and balances. That's the biggest flaw we have right now, is that people aren't doing that. But like with the NAP, it's impossible. It's impossible to do that. Those checks and balances would not actually exist, because although I love the idea of my fellow man and my fellow human all having the idea of I want what's best for my next fellow man next to me. There's currently people out there who are saying they would willingly let their sons or daughters be fucking gunned down by the military because they say that humans should have human rights. I don't
all right.
see humans as being
Can,
able to be together in
can I
that way.
respond to that really quickly? Because we only have a few
Sorry.
seconds left.
Sorry.
Yeah. So there would be checks and balances in Ancapistan. There would be competition, like I've mentioned earlier. If one court is corrupt, biased, or unfair, people would switch to a competitor. You can't just bribe. If one judge or one's business is found out to be corrupt, you can switch. People who can just switch to a different, whatever you want to call it, a different business. There's also reputation. Like I said, also there's social ostracism, and ruling and contracts are. This is going a bit beyond your criticism, but I want to mention this anyways. Contracts, rulings, rulings of contracts are enforced defensively and only against proven prior aggressors by competing agency. If a personal defense agency, which is basically the cops, overreaches, no other agency would cooperate. And decentralization ends up having multiple layers. You can have overlapping systems, one for courts, one for contracts, another for torts, a third for disputes between communities, etc.
So,
All right.
Groofus, in your system, who verifies the judges in question are placing the non-aggression principle over any other consideration in their judgments? So, in other words, who is the oversight committee for the judges to verify that the NAP is being used in all of the judges' judgments?
Well, the part of the idea is that there wouldn't be a single entity. There wouldn't be like I said earlier, a monopoly on force, a la a sole arbiter of what is right and wrong, which is what the state is, which is one of the big reasons why I am an ANCAP. And the how long do I have? Because this could be a really long response.
Give me. I'll put a minute on the clock. Go.
Okay, so as I said earlier, the NAP is as universal. It's non-negotiable for. We've covered that. I'll just move to the second point. The in who actually enforces and verifies the judgments. Of course, private arbitrators and judges. You could also have what do you call it? You could have appeals courts still. There would be personal defense agencies if a court violates the NAP or agencies refuse to enforce its judgments, protecting their own clients. Like I said earlier, there'll also be reputation and rating systems. Private companies track judicial performance, especially now that we have the internet. That would be much easier to track. There would be insurance companies who back people's protections, and I kind of wish we had gotten to this because that would be another good conversation. And community covenants and property owners would set rules beyond the NAP so long as they don't violate them.
If you could somehow close the loopholes that you see in the NAP, would that make you more inclined to be the affirmative position? So in other words, the problems and the flaws that you have outlined in the non-aggression principle, do you believe that if you could find a way to close those, you would be inclined to agree? And same minutes on the clock for you.
I would have to say no still, because while the loopholes and everything are a big issue, it's also the fact that it's too much of a pie in the sky belief that every single human would choose to do the right thing at all times. They would choose to be charitable. They would choose to be wonderful towards their neighbor, regardless of what they look like. As we've seen in history, and right now, and currently with the current administration and the people who still support this fuck. There's way too many people who are willing to say that they would kill their own children because they disagree slightly on certain policies or they disagree on who deserves human rights. So the NAP is, while a noble idea, is, even if there was no loopholes, is still putting too much faith in our fellow man to keep themselves from genociding each other.
Every single word my opponent has spoken today was and has been delivered peacefully. They use their own body to form their thoughts, their own voice to speak, their own time to stand here. No one punched them, no one gagged them, no one stole their notes. This is not an accident. This is ethics. If you argue to make a claim, including the NAP is wrong, you must presuppose self-ownership, so you control your own body to speak, and non-aggression. No one can initiate force against you to shut up. So the moment he opens his mouth to deny, don't hit people and don't take their stuff, he was already using the very principle he was trying to reject. That's not a rebuttal, that's a self-inflicted knockout. And here's the kicker. If the NAP isn't the basis of all laws, then initiation of force is okay sometimes, but they don't use force here. He didn't threaten me, didn't rob me, and didn't conscript me into silence. He chose peaceful discourse. Why? Because deep down, everyone knows the emperor has no clothes. Look at him, strutting around in the stages of history, naked as the day he was born, waving the scepter of necessary taxes, essential conscription, and vital regulation. Everyone's been too polite to say it. My opponent has spent the whole debate pretending these clothes exist while standing here completely reliant on the naked truth they deny. The emperor has no clothes. He's butt naked, flopping in the wind, and we've been gaslighting ourselves into thinking there's a three-piece suit. Furthermore, I would say that Mike makes right is immoral because it is whoever has the biggest stick gets to decide what's right, and that's just organized theft and violence dressed up as law. And then there's mixed system, part NAP, part makes right, and that's a contradiction. Either initiating force is allowed or it isn't. And you can't have both. The second you allow even one exception, the NAP stops being principle and becomes a polite suggestion that the powerful can ignore whenever they feel like it. That's not justice, that's just surrender to coercion with extra paperwork. Even if someone says we need pre-crime laws for safety, gun laws to prevent mass shootings, that doesn't justify initiating force against a still peaceful person. By arguing this, you presuppose the presumption of innocence is void. The emperor has been naked this whole time. Time to stop clapping for imaginary tailoring.
Yeah, no, the non-aggression principle, again, as I said with my answer to the judge's question, as a noble is realistically a noble idea. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. The problem is that implementing it is quite, as I've said, untenable. It's not possible to keep it going. It's way too easy to break. If you have enough money, you can say, "Screw the rules. You can go full Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh. Screw the rules. I have money." Um, uh, and sorry, I just always find the libertarian outros to usually be really funny. That wonderful, everything. Um, I wouldn't say I wasn't aggressing. I mean, I was holding Mjolnir the entire time, but yeah, no, the non principle is completely untenable, purely because it's putting two the emperor has no clothes thing is the libertarian thinking that the emperor has on that three-piece suit, um, while pretending that everyone else is naked, it's pretending they have a three-piece suit while everyone else is naked. But it's them because they don't seem to understand their own outcomes and ways that the world sees how they say. Fuck, words are hard for outro. Ugh. Just it's impossible because human nature and the way that humans are over generation, over history, and how we'd like to get around loopholes. You always make everything harder for everyone. It's just not possible to keep the NAP going, unlike with other ways to get things going. And this thing about might makes right, no one ever said that that is correct. It's more that you do need someone sovereign over most of a population, especially one as large as all of us, in order to um enforce and keep people in line so that they won't kill more people. It's a very utilitarian stance that I hold on to, and I will hold on to it till my dying breath.